Hello again. Now we're going on to some more specific information about trade shows. So let's get started. You know, I've got even more terms for you. I know the last one was just kind of like throwing a bunch of terms, but like I said, there's a lot of vocabulary in this module. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about stuff. So, I think you're going to know most of these. You know what attendees are. Attendees, that's who the individuals who participate in an event, whereas attendance is the number of participants at an event. It's good to make sure we understand that because I am going to be asking you in your assignments to be talking about good metrics, and obviously attendance is going to be a big part of it. An audience, when we're talking about this in terms of event marketing, it's a group of participants who assembled at an event. So then, similar to attendance, participation is simply defined as taking part of an event. That participation, again, is a metric. We know that there might be a difference between attendance and participation. And so that's really an important thing for us to be thinking about different ways to look at the success of events. This gets tricky with this next one. You see, in truth, we all have different ideas of what constitutes meaningful participation. So for some people, just buying the ticket is participation. For some people, you need to physically attend the event, not just count attendance as buying a ticket, but you need to show up and walk through. And we often look at foot traffic as a measurement of what's going on at an event. It could be that we want you to actually do something more engaging, like we give you a lanyard and you walk around and you get it scanned by at least 3 different vendors, so we know that you're interacting and engaging with the people at the trade show. So think about how would you define participation as you're doing your assignments. Because it's going to keep coming up. This is a point of discussion that we need to really be thinking about. Registration, that's the process of signing up to participate in an event. Registrants, not a surprise, they are the people who have signed up to participate in an event. Why am I listing that out both ways? Because again, registrants is a good metric, particularly as you're trying to look at the difference between registrants, attendance, participation. Another key thing, you all know what capacity is, but it's very important to think about that as you're writing your papers, because as you want to know how much does your space allow. So what's the maximum number of attendees that can be in one particular physical space at the same time? Maybe you can only have 600 people in a room. That doesn't mean that you can't have people moving in and out throughout the day, or having different days and different people coming. There's lots of ways to think about how to maximize that capacity to make sure that your event is successful. As mentioned in the previous lecture, a trade show is an event that brings together individuals for a limited duration of time to research offerings and conduct business. But of course, there's many types of business and vastly different audiences between different trade shows. The primary distinction would be between consumer shows and industry-specific events. So these industry fairs, they make up slightly more than half of all trade shows. And as discussed earlier, these fairs are often specific to a business role or vertical. So that means that the right B2B buyers show up, and that's what kind of makes it worth the vendor's while to set up an exhibit. The consumer show, on the other hand, is designed more for the masses, and it has less of a sales approach, less of a push for getting you to come talk to somebody and commit to something. These fairs are creating experiences that are going to excite the attendees, and that's going to help build brand equity, which of course in turn will help generate revenue over the long haul. So I want to give you some examples of the different kinds. So thinking of trade shows, industry trade shows, one might be the National Restaurant Association show. That's bringing in vendors that want to partner with dining establishments. There's another one called Magic, which is not about magic tricks, but it's rather about the fashion industry. And they're trying to make sure that they get their clothing into retail outlets. Con Expo is an extraordinarily large trade show you never heard of, probably never heard of because it's focused on the construction industry. But if you want to really get specific, you can learn all the details of poured building materials at the World of Concrete Fair instead of just going to ConExpo. I mean, you can get really niche and really specific with some of these fairs. The one pictured here, I'm ready to go visit the Fancy Food Show here in New York City. Basically, it's all kinds of just gourmet foods because they're just trying to get folks in industry to think about featuring them because their high quality foods is going to lift their restaurant or their hotel or wherever foods are served as part of the experience. But, the fancy food show, like all of the examples I just mentioned, the attendance is limited to those who work in the specific industry and are invited to come and participate. Consumer trade shows, on the other hand, they include a large number of auto shows and boat shows and home shows. These are essentially big ticket items where potential buyers want to see and learn, before making the expensive purchase. Here in Washington, we've got one of the biggest home shows and one of the biggest auto shows in the world. Video game enthusiasts, they're apt to go join the E3 Expo, which is held in Los Angeles. That also includes computer hardware and software vendors. It's got a complicated history of kind of like jumping back and forth between a consumer event, then to one that's limited to an industry professional. But I think right now it's back to consumers again. The biggie of all trade shows, though, consumer trade shows, well, actually, it's the biggest of all. It really is CES. It's held each year in Las Vegas. CES stands for Consumer Electronics Show. I've added some materials to Canvas for you all to review. As I think this is a fascinating case study of how brands are changing their marketing to excite influencers who will then spread the word to their faithful readers and viewers. This is a great way just to get the word out about what your brand is doing. Okay, well, trade shows are terrific for marketing. Everybody's got different reasons why they're doing this, right? The people who are actually managing the event, they're here to make money. They're not so much worried about how your brand is doing. They just want to run an event and line their pockets. So they can make money because they are charging the attendees. They're also charging the companies that want to come in and set up a booth. And they can also solicit sponsorship. If they get people to come in and sponsor an event, that often is how they make the most money. So I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a later module when we get into event sponsorship. Okay, so we know the event managers want to make money. The attendees generally are going because they want to learn something. They want to get some meaningful information from the vendor. Maybe they already have the information. They just want to go shake a hand with a salesperson, get that final bit of negotiating in and get what they want, and then they just want to make the purchase. So when they are paying for going to this fair, they realize they're getting a value. There's a reason they're coming, whether it's to get information, close the deal. It's worth spending the money and the time to go there to help forward their relationship with a specific brand. Now, when we talk about vendors, which is the role that you guys will be playing when you are doing your assignments in this class, and we're thinking about events as a marketing perspective, not as an event management perspective. There are different reasons why you might want to have a trade show. If you are more traditional and you're doing more of, mimicking the way we've done marketing in the past, you might think of trade shows as designed for the sales team. You're trying to close as many sales as possible. And your whole presence is really just getting those people out on the floor so they can shake hands, they can either qualify new leads or they can move people further down the funnel. When there are people who do purchasing for their companies, they sometimes need to make quick answers. I need to I need to find a database server. And I don't know enough about this. I just got to go find someone. They can go to the fair and they can get those answers. But unfortunately, when you're kind of desperate, you often you often get caught up in these old-fashioned kind of marketers who are really not trying to um, think about a long-term partnership. They're trying to get as many sales as they can in the short term so they can keep their jobs or get their sales bonus. I would argue the smarter way to think about trade shows and all of event marketing, honestly, is you're looking at the long term. You're trying to build brand equity. Yes, it'd be great to get some sales. It would be terrific to see some short term gains. But if you are spending most of your energy on really putting forth a positive story about your brand, and you're really trying to get people to become evangelists of your brand and start generating word of mouth, you're probably going to get some of those sales anyway. And you're doing a great job of building things up for the future. And so the marketing becomes, really authentic and organic, and it just keeps feeding itself. So the impact of the money you spent on the trade show continues long after you've broken down the display and everybody's gone home. Because now you've got people out there in the world who had a positive experience talking about you and thinking about you. And that's really important for long term sales health. Okay. As you are getting into your assignments and you are thinking about